let's say I've convinced you that this would be useful to you as an ICC. So then, of course, the next question is, well, how do you get started? And it's the Nike thing, I guess. Like all things, the answer is, just start. Um, just start somewhere. Now, as I say that, I will tell you that this is the part that I found hardest. Like once I got started, it was easy, but like finding in because the documentation in the developer section is really really good, right? You can follow it. It's really helpful. What where I struggled was in the beginning, like someone tell me how to like set up my FTP and my how do I create a PHP file and how do I connect that to Infusionsoft and where do I put my API key and how do I like like I see in the forums all the time people will give code snippets or whatever and then someone will come back and say I hate to ask a dumb question but where do I put this? And that's not a dumb question at all. That's the hard part. It's not the code actually, right? It's the like where do I put this? How do I start? How do I hook this thing up? So um, once I got that, then it was pretty easy. So because that was for me like the major hurdle, I guess they just assume that we come out of the womb knowing that, but for non-programmers, it's like baffling. So I've made a little screencast. It's a little rough, I'll just tell you, but it takes you through the process of setting up your API key and your FTP client with your server and your config file and where to put the ISDK on your server and all those little setup things that were such a mystery to me in the beginning. So if you want that, you can just email me at kim@kimsnyder.com and I will send it to you. And hopefully you will be able to use that to get past that first little hurdle. Okay, so once you get that set up, okay, then you only need a couple of things, really, really, really basic things. You need your API key, which is in your application in the settings, which I go through where to find that in case you don't know, in the screencast, but it's also, it's in the documentation. Just search API key on um, Infusionsoft's website. You need a free text editor, which can be, super basic, but most, WordPad or any of those will work in the beginning. Later on, if you start to do this a lot, you might want one that highlights syntax the right way and things like that. But they're free, both for Mac and Windows. You don't need anything fancy there. You need a free FTP client, which most of you probably already have anyway. If you're working with websites, you probably already have your favorite one. FileZilla is great because it's free on both Mac and Windows. And then you need FTP access to your server. And really, truth be told, it doesn't even have to be it the files don't have to live on the client's server. Sometimes I have clients who don't have their own server and I just host the files on my server. So really it's FTP access to a server, although ideally you want them to have that in case you get hit by a bus. But FTP access to a server that's running PHP and you're good to go. So it's really really simple stuff that you need. Um, and and so then what, after you've done that and you get all that stuff set up, then what? Well, so the next thing I would say is then go play. Just start. I mean, I know that sounds like, oh God, I'd rather stick pins in my eyes than play with code, right? But but it is. But again, I think if you just do one or two of these little things, you take these little samples out of, and I'm going to show you how to do it in just a second. But you take these little samples out of the SDK and you drop them in the file that I show you how to create in the screencast. And then what I found is they kind of came to life for me when I did that because number one, now they're not flat on the screen in the help doc, but data comes back out of my app that I'm familiar with. And so, and I start to see, oh, because they're people I know, they're records I work with all the time, right? They're tags that I set up. And so when it starts returning those things, suddenly the relationships and the things start to make a lot more sense because it's working with your data. I can't really explain it, but trust me, it really does kind of bring it to life a little bit better. So let me just kind of show you guys that part of it. Well, you know what? Actually, before I do that, let me see what my next slide was. Oh, and then as I said before, then once you get those kind of little code snippets and you're able to use those, then gradually what you start to do is you string those little snippets together to make increasingly complex little solutions for yourself. So let me go back here and just kind of show you this real quick. I'm checking time. Okay, we're good. So, all right. So this is my one of my personal websites. Okay, poloskills.com. We do instructional videos for polo players, and let's just look at the server. Let's forget about the So I just want to show you a couple things real quick. So if you look, this is the home directory. This is a no, it isn't. This is not a WordPress site. This is a .NET site. But anyway, so I have this little folder here called scripts, right? If I double click on scripts, then you'll see I've got a few little scripts in here. And then I've got this folder XML RPC. Okay, so this XML RPC I got from InfusionSoft. That's part of the download. Here's the SDK right here. And then here's this other file called a con.config file. These are the three things that you'll need that I go through in the screencast that you need to connect yourself to the InfusionSoft API. And I show you how to set those up. Okay. Now, once you get that set up, you can put these scripts anywhere you want. You just have to remember where you put them. I happen to put them in this scripts folder. And so let's look at this one, test.php, because this is the absolute most basic script there is. Right? So what I do, this is what I call my test script, because I got to know, like, when I set one of these up, is it actually connected to InfusionSoft? Is my script talking to InfusionSoft back and forth? And that's all this does, right? So it says, this is like famous if you're a non-coder, but like hello world, you'll see this, like, I don't know who came up with that, but anyway, it's everywhere. So all this does is prints out hello world whether I'm connected or not, right? And then here's where it gets the SDK hooked up, blah, 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 fine. And then it says, if I'm connected, then print I am connected, and if I'm not connected, print I'm not connected, okay? So that's fine. So I have that now sitting on my server. So let me just show you what that would look like. So here, if I go to poloskills.com and I say /scripts, actually it's going to pull it up for me right here, /test.php. Okay, if all I do is access that file in a browser, it says, look, hello world, I am connected. So what that says is this little script is connected to the InfusionSoft API, and now I can write more stuff, right, that to talk and do things within the InfusionSoft API. So once I get that far, that's that connection thing, right, then you can start right, putting your other stuff in here, like this, anywhere. This is where all your other code will go. Is you'll get rid of all this hello world stuff. And as you save those on the server, as I just did, right, hit save, and now update this page. Okay, it's as simple as this. Hopefully, play with your code here. I need a break there. But anyway, you get the idea, right? So this is just text, of course, not executing or doing anything or calling records from the application or anything complex. But my point being, I just want, because again, this was kind of like, that whole thing of where is it and where do I put it, and was again like just kind of mind-boggling for me. And so I just want you to see that really this is just it's a page on your server that gets accessed in different ways. And the most simple of one way to do it is just by typing in the URL in a browser, right? And whatever is there is going to execute that way. So that's your little test code. And so when you go and you start playing with these samples that I showed you in the SDK, right? You'll put them in here. You'll start to type them in here, and you'll get errors. And that's the other thing. Like, don't panic. I wouldn't I wouldn't try doing anything with an update to begin with. Like, don't update live data on especially on a client app in the beginning till you know what you're doing. But go get a sandbox app, which is free, and or just do things that pull data rather than updating them in the beginning, right? Just query the data. Just, look at contact records and things. And once you get the hang of it, then you'll see updating them is pretty easy. But just play. That's, it's just like speaking English. When you were a little kid, how did you learn to speak English? Well, you started by listening to people and then repeating what they said, and then a few more words and a few more words, and stringing them together into sentences, and then paragraphs, and eventually speeches and webinars, right? So this is really, really no different. Okay, so the way you get started is to just start. And if I can help, I'm happy to do. My name is Kim Snyder. I'm an InfusionSoft certified consultant and founder of Train Simple. I hope you found this video helpful. In my experience, the InfusionSoft API is absolutely one of the most overlooked aspects of the amazing business building tool that is InfusionSoft, and it would be well worth your time to learn how to put it to work for you. If you're an InfusionSoft savvy non-programmer interested in learning the API quickly and easily, check out the API for Beginners Learning Lab from Train Simple by going to trainandsimple.com and clicking on Courses. And if I can answer any questions for you, send me an email at kim@kimsnyder.com. That's SNIDER.